Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Books Are My Heart. I'm thrilled to finally share my interview with cozy mystery author Deborah H. Goldstein, the creator of the Sarah Blair mystery series published by Kensington Cozies. Aside from being an amazing person, you're also an amazing writer. I have to talk to you about your cozy mystery series and what inspired you to write this particular story. Why take on the foodie and the wannabe, almost not really sure how to cook character? You have a 28-year-old sleuther who is starting over at 28. She began a certain life path at 18 and things have changed for her. And so you have a lot of different cozy elements, and I'm just curious how you came to land on those particular narratives or components or characterizations, because you interwove so many of the things cozy mystery readers want. I was curious if that was intentionally done, if you did that as the reader and like that's what you wanted to do as the writer, because it's such a great book. I just need to know where it came from in that brain of yours.
Okay, well, this is a multi-answer. First, I love to read cozies. So that is in my brain, that's the relaxation aspect. But more importantly, I've told you already that my first two books got orphaned.
Yes.
And that I had been coached about what some of the tropes and cozies were. And I said, well, I've got a problem. I really want to write, because even my traditional mystery tends to be a cozy. So I said, I want to write a cozy. No problem writing a small town. When I was a litigator, I ran all over Alabama. I know what the squares look like. I know what the towns look like. I know how the people talk. And I can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. Amateur sleuth. It's easy. I can make her an amateur. Easy. And then I got to the hard part. Most of these cozies have a baker, a cook, somebody who's a professional chef. I was in trouble. Or they have crafts.
Yes.
I don't like any of that. I'm the kid who, when I was taught how to sew in school, I had to go home because I sewed the skirt I was making for class to the skirt I was wearing.
Oh, wow.
That kind of hole in both of them. I was the kid who, broke all the needles. They told me to stop in the sewing class.
Well, I kept poking myself. I was bleeding.
Craft? No. So I said crafts route, and I don't cook. I burn things.
I knew I liked you for a reason.
If you look at some of my old blogs, you will discover that what I've learned during the COVID era, and I also learned that if your stove says P8 or something, that means it's on fire. If it's P6 or J6, you've just blown up the brain.
Oh, wow.
I did both of those.
Oh, wow.
And can you imagine, I'm sitting diagonally across, I'm in this room, I have a kind of a garden room that I use as an office. But I can see into my kitchen, and I was making something, I got into a book, I was reading a cozy. And I'm reading along, and all of a sudden I see flames leaping up in my oven.
It's not your fault with the cooking. Cozy was just that good. We're just too engrossed in the story. That's not your cooking fault. That is your reader love right there.
Well,
you can spin that.
So I said, okay, I'm in trouble. And then it dawned on me, I bet there's other people out there like me, like you, who would read the book and not care that she's not perfect in the kitchen.
I relate very much to that.
And so that's when I said, I am writing a person, but I had to give her some of the traits that would be in a cozy. You're supposed to have life changing.
Yes.
And that makes sense because you can't build a story arc for a series.
Yeah.
If there isn't something, you have to start at one end to get to the other. So I made her married at 18, divorced at 28. All she got out of the marriage is Rah-Rah the cat. Her husband got it all. He's the rat, and I can talk about him because he's dead by page 1, because he is supposedly, or at least her sister is accused of having fed him indirectly a bite of a poisonous tart.
I love that the book cover encapsulates everything that's within the story, because or even the title itself, like one taste had the poison, bye-bye. You're getting your cozy companion, food is going to be referenced, the title makes sense when you're a reader. You're going, okay, I understand, I get this. When you feel as if you're in on the joke, it works.
I'm so glad, because Kensington does wonderful covers. I give them very high credit if you look at all of them. But on this one, they did ask, as I told you, they asked about it. And I told them I really wanted simplicity. And they went with it, and I thought they nailed it.
They really did a nice job for you. I'm happy on your behalf. I don't think it's that simple, because to me, simple, you just have that one cherry on the cover or that one strawberry. So I like the fact that you have the fork with the shadow making it somewhat menacing. You have the cat with the wonderful eyes, which are so lively. If you want to turn this into a poster and put it on your wall, it's inspiration for you to keep writing right there.
I mean, the point you're making is very well taken, because like in the book Three Treats Too Many, they did the thing with the cat looking over a table and a bowl of soup, because the recipes have some soup in that book. But if you look, R.I.P. is in the soup.
I saw that.
And I thought, wow, that's a clever way of bringing in the murder aspect. And they've done that in everything. They have just enough.
Because yours makes sense. They speak to me, I'm going, okay, it makes me want to read it because they're visually appealing, but it also works for the story. So sometimes they'll be visually appealing and then that has nothing to do with the story. Again, this is one of those, you can judge a book by its cover. 5-star cover, 5-star book, it works.
Thank you. I've had so much fun writing it.
So,
except for the fact that I threw out half of it.
You threw out half of this book?
Yeah. Okay, when I was writing this book, I was zooming through the first half and just having a ball writing it. And then my mom passed away.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, and then I couldn't write for a few months.
Yeah.
And then that happens. Mm-hmm. And then I started writing again, and I was plotting.
Yeah.
And I'm a pantser, so I was, kind of going. And in my head, I kind of thought I knew who had done it. And I finished the book, and I hated it.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely hated it. I said, I like it up to the middle. And I said, from that point on, I can't stand it. So I put it aside, and I started thinking, what's wrong with it? And I really did not know at that point. And I'm one of those people who you go to bed thinking about something, and all of a sudden, when you wake up and you're half asleep, an idea comes.
It's the 2 a.m. wake-up call.
Yeah, and this one was, you idiot. You've got the wrong killer.
That will make a difference for the story.
And I said, oh, no, you're right. And I will say, writers, we talk to ourselves. So I was having this conversation, and it's like, I think it was more like 3, to be honest. But, I'm on Central Time. So I'm sitting there going, you idiot, you've got the wrong killer. You're right. Oh my gosh, I know who really should have done it. And the funny part was, I then threw out from the middle to the end. And started writing just with the joy that I'd had from the first to the middle. The book rewrote itself within the week. But the interesting factor, if you went back, and I'm not going to tell you because you got to read it, the clues were already there for the correct killer.
You had to throw away probably, 20,000 words or something?
Oh, at least.
I was going to say minimum, especially, I know Kensington, they
want 80-some-thousand words.
Yeah.
So this book is, I can't remember, it's about 81,000.
Yeah.
And I must have thrown away, I would say, closer to 30-something, because it was literally the middle of the book.
I mean, you would really have to be willing to kill those darlings, and I think a lot of writers want to protect them, going, no, those are my words, I spent my time. So I think it's really amazing and wonderful that you're going, I want to make this story work. It's not just a matter of getting it done, I want to make it done well and get it done right. Perfectly imperfect is not going to work this time.
One of the things for me is when I read a cozy, what I consider a good cozy as a reader, was a book that entertained me, a book that challenged me to the whodunit. If I couldn't figure out the whodunit, now, if the clues were there and I missed them, it's one thing. If you got to the last page and you decided, oh, it's the maid, just because that's the one character that hasn't been in the book, that would not make the top of my list. But if it was really well crafted, I loved it. And so there were a few. Carolyn Hart. I like the one I like 2 Agatha Christie's in particular, the Roger Ackroyd, because she flipped the whole format. And I also liked The Pale Horse because it was very different.
You went back into her backlist and learned from the master.
Well, I did some of her, but I also stole from, and I'm very honest, I steal. And I don't steal their ideas, but when I was trying to write, I start back, what did I enjoy?
Yeah.
And I bring up Carolyn, I bring up some of these others that I've read, more recently like Valerie Burns, who I mentioned to you. because I love how they format characters. And then I realized I'm a character writer.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you your scene, I'll give you your place. I think you know where you are in this book.
Yeah.
Small town, etc. I think you get to feel, you know the city. By the time you're in book 2, you know where the bank is, you know where everything is. And it's kind of like take Louise Penny. You know where Three Pines, you'll know every street.
Yeah.
But I want the characters to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are what's interesting to me.
What's the quote? You don't reread books for the plot, you reread them for the characters.
Mm-hmm. And why do you keep reading a book?
Oh, the characters.
Yeah. You don't fall in love with, you might like reading, but you're not going to read the next 4 books for that small town. You're going to read the next 4 books to find out what's happening to Sarah Blair, who's my protagonist, and to her twin sister Emily, who is the perfect cook. We all should have a sister who wants to do everything right. And
well, then you just get to eat the food. You don't have to worry about cooking it.
And you want to know about the other characters. Well, that's what I get around it. For Sarah, the idea of food is it's got to be simple. It's got to be something that you can either make and heat up, take out, or it's got to be something her sister gives her to eat.
Or cereal or toast, like myself. Very simple. Again, that's why I relate to this book very well.
Well, that's why I had so much fun with the recipes. Kensington told me I had to have recipes, and I almost died.
So it was a requirement.
Oh yeah, the Kensington, if you were going to do a food, this thing, they told me I needed recipes.
Oh.
And I said, oh, this was before the book was trended. I was talking to people about it, and I said, oh. And and I had loved, for example, Diane Mott Davidson's books. I enjoyed them so much, but I'm not a person who goes and makes the recipes in the book. I glance through them.
Yeah.
I want the characterization.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have Jell-O in a can, which actually is a very popular 1950s recipe. It was in all the women's magazines. And Stouffer spinach souffle. If you invite me to your house and you ask me to bring a vegetable, I bring that. It is the easiest recipe to make, and it always comes out. So those were my, there are others. In the second book in the series, I got into wine spritzers, so it's a drink book. The third book had soups and vegan recipes. I mean, I never stayed the same, but the funniest one is actually in the 4th book, which ties back to this book, because I was having so much fun talking about Jell-O in a can. I would walk in to give a book presentation, and there would be a tray with Jell-O made from my recipe, but they would make it in different colors, so it was really, really pretty. I actually have a picture of it on a silver tray. It's gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
Somebody did it one for that, and everybody's going. But I got into. I was talking to a group one time, and a woman who was much older than we are told me how she had once entertained her children when financially she didn't have much money. And I listening.
Mm-hmm.
She said she had 4 kids. And she used to give each kid a packet of Jell-O.
Oh.
And they would make the Jell-O in their color.
Oh.
One would have the blueberry, one would have red, whatever, yellow.
Yeah.
And then after they'd mixed it, she would have them start to get it to gel, but not be quite gel. Then she would have it cut it up in such a way. And then they would mix it all together and gel it into a mold.
Oh, that's very clever.
And she called it stained glass Jell-O. That's in book 4. I gave her credit, and I recently spoke in the library for the community that I'd spoken, when I met her, I spoke at a church book club with this book. She gave me that idea, and I kept it in my mind.
Yeah.
And when I used it in the 4th book, recently I spoke, as I said, in a library, and the woman who had been in charge of the book club came to hear me speak, and I jokingly told her that the recipe had made it in, and this woman is still active in that book club. So she immediately bought 2 copies of it because I could sign it to her so she could take home her stained glass Jell-O.
Oh wow! Oh my gosh, that's so sweet though. I love that because again, I have these moments as the reader where I'm going, "How do you think of this? Where did this come from?"
Well, it's like I have a recipe in one of the books, and it's called Betty's Tiramisu.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Betty is a reader who sometimes when I do a Facebook party or something, one of the questions I'll ask is, anybody have recipes that Sarah could handle? And she had a tiramisu that was the easiest tiramisu I had ever seen, and it was a family recipe. So I wrote her back and asked her if I might use it. And she gave me official permission, and I named the recipe for her. But I used it.
I was gonna say, as a fan, if your author that you admire uses something that you submitted or they liked, life made, gold sticker on the forehead, I mean, she must have felt wonderful when you reached out. I mean, you made her day, if not.
Well, she made my day too.
she helped you, but at the same time, that must have been wonderful. As, oh my gosh, I love this book series. Now I'm contributing something. That's really sweet.
Well, and I'm always honest. This is my my Achilles heel. I'm not the kitchen. I'm Sarah in disguise. It's up to a point.
You have a lot of different things that cozy mystery readers look for. You have the cozy companion. You have the starting over. You have the return to hometown. You also have the murder in a way where I don't really mind that this particular character is no longer with us. You do a lot of things because those matter to cozy mystery readers. So I can tell that you understand this subgenre and what speaks to the readers. Did you think about that as you were writing, or did you, again, you just wrote what you enjoyed, but I'm just curious because you checked off so many boxes that readers look for. I was curious if this was done in editing when you added some things, or it just came naturally to you, because to me, I'm so impressed that you were able to do those tropes and those themes. And again, I still think it's so clever with I have the foodie and the non-foodie. You cover so much. I'm curious, like, because you said pantser too. I'm like, how do you do this then? How does this brain work?
When I decided I was writing cozy, as I said, I checked off in my head what I could do and what I couldn't do. And then when I did the twist, I knew I was going to have to satisfy some people, have somebody who knew how to cook.
Yeah.
And being a mother of twins, I thought that's perfect, because mine are night and day.
Yeah.
That would be perfect. And it also would give me somebody to play off of. So, because I think in every book you have to have some comic relief.
Yeah.
I cannot write without something being a little funny. I'm sure there were a few places you chuckled.
You entertain me.
Yeah.
Throughout. I get all the emotions, all the feels. Where I'm like, okay, I'm laughing. Now I'm concerned for this character. Please don't kill my favorite. I'm going, okay, that makes sense. You keep me
and
along.
so I did all that, I think subconsciously, consciously to know the small town, the amateur sleuth, the food, but unconsciously, I wrote for fun.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to pace it, so that just came. And I knew when I didn't pace it, that's when I had to throw out the bottom of the book, half a second.
Yeah.
But when I wrote, it paced. So in the end, this one did not get much editing of any kind.
Wow.
I was in shock. I was waiting for them to send me lots of edits, and they didn't.
If that's your writing journey, and that's where you start with your first book in a cozy series, that is something to take a lot of pride and joy.
I did. I was so
That's
thrilled.
a pat on the back. I'm gonna go treat myself, or I was gonna say, you can be like her and get takeout, go to her fancy, because you deserve it. Wow, I mean, that's impressive.
This was, One Taste Too Many was an absolute joy, because in my other books, as I told you, Maze is back up because after their publisher went out, it had sold. It came out in mass market through a Harlequin Worldwide Mystery, but it came out from this small hep press early. So when they gave me back the things, I put it back up. So I'm a hybrid author in that one sense.
Okay.
Should Have Played Poker was bought by a company, and when it was orphaned, that's prior to this.
Yeah.
I had to wait because as long as they were selling it, they were going to give me back my rights. And Harlequin Worldwide Mystery had bought the mass market for that one too.
Oh wow.
So that one has been that one came out in 2016, and I just got my rights back in the last year.
What's next for you in this cozy mystery series? Is there a chance you might write another cozy mystery series? I'm just curious, what's next on the cozy agenda?
I think Sarah is going to be where she is through the 5 books. Okay. I think Kensington and I made that decision for now. I'm not sure that there may be something elsewhere later. I am working on something else. It's a little more traditional suspenseful, I think. But I really would like to write another cozy series, because I realized as I'm trying to write these other things, I write a lot of short stories too, and they all tend to be cozy, most of them. They'll end up in Alfred Hitchcock Black Hat Mystery. Some of them are darker than my cozy, but I really like writing the cozy. I like the humor of it. I like the, I want to say feel good, but it's not always feel good when you write a cozy. There's an edgier side. This is considered to be a slightly edgier series than some of the traditional cozies.
See, that's something I've started to notice. I think probably after 2015, it could be a little bit more graphic, or it could be a little bit more adult and mature. But at the same time, you strike a balance where you don't have anything that shocks me. Every so often, something will pop up in a book. I'm going, how did this get in a cozy? You didn't do that with me.
I kept, in the whole series, if there is anything that's going to be a relationship or something, there may be the tension of the relationship, but true to the trope, you will never be on the page. You'll see the person dead, you'll find the body, but you're not going to sit there in pools of blood and gore, because that's not what a cozy reader wants to read about.
Well, that's something that's kind of nice with you and the poison, where it's all internal. I'm not cleaning up a huge giant mess and calling in the cleaners.
People in my books die in funny places. They can die in a commercial dishwasher. They can die from poison. I have fun. Because I am not a cook, if I may take a moment here.
Go for it.
Because I'm not a cook, I had to go and research. Just like I told you, I had to research the cat to make sure I got that right. Because I grew up more with dogs, and Fluffy is a rescue dog, because I like rescue concepts in book 2.
Yeah.
And so, but Rara will forever in these books be the #1 character but Rara is a cat. Rara doesn't speak, Rara doesn't think. Now Rara acts, and Rara may like you, not like you, but in the way a cat would do so. I tried to make Rara as correct as I could, so that a person reading it who is a cat lover says, that's my cat. I did the same thing with Fluffy. I made Fluffy is a female, made her subservient to the cat, but truly a doggy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to do the same thing with cooking. I know nothing about cooking. I'll be honest. Growing up, I have a sister who's 3 years younger. I won't tell your age, Michelle. But anyway, my sister was the perfect kitchen person. My mother was an excellent cook. Michelle would follow her throughout the kitchen.
Oh, wow.
Learned Michelle is an excellent cook too. I would empty the dishwasher at 5 o'clock and set the table at,
That's
at
like
5:15.
that's your job in the kitchen. It's great.
By 5:30, I'd have everything that I was supposed to do. 5:15, 5:30, everything was. There was a reason they were at these times.
Yeah.
At 5:45, my dad would walk in and I would wave, hey. We would sit down for dinner at 6 o'clock. Now, what you have to know is Perry Mason was on from 5 to 6. So every task I had was done during the commercials. And I never saw the credits on Perry Mason because I'd see the last scene and we'd go to dinner just when they'd come back and run the credits. So it wasn't until years later who I learned which actress, like Barbara Eden, was. Oh, she was the murderer in that? So I watched Perry Mason. And when I went to write these books, we eat out a lot until COVID. We ate out a lot. So I know a lot of professional chefs in Birmingham, whether from eating in the restaurants or from just being friends from women's groups and different things. So I went and interviewed a number of chefs, very, James Beard winners, other things.
Wow.
And I interviewed waiters. I interviewed all these different jobs. Yeah. And I stole from them, just like I said before. But the funny part is one of my friends, Susan Mason, has this B&A warehouse in Birmingham, and she took me through in the back, and she's showing me, like at one point she walks me through a rather cold room, and I see everything very neatly labeled and put up, and we walk out the other side, and she said, do you know what you just went through? And I said, something that your temperature's down on. And she goes, that was a walk-through freezer.
Oh, wow.
Or fridge.
Yeah.
She says, if this door wasn't here and it it would have just been a walk in.
Yeah.
I said, oh. Then she showed me the dishwasher that they use in one of their things. And it's not like the one we have at home where we open the door. Yeah. It's this massive, with heat. And I'm going, gosh, I can see a body hanging out of that.
I was going to say, it sounds like I know where that inspiration just came from.
But one of the things that I used in book 2 was a different restaurateur. He had opened a new restaurant. I had used to love eating in his first. Yeah. And I was eating in his second, and it was wonderful. So anyway, I'm interviewing him. He was kind enough to sit with me. Yeah. And I said, well, tell me about it when you're, opening a restaurant. What are some of the things, because I know you're challenged. What are some of the things you do? And he pointed behind him at the bar from where we were sitting, and there was this fixture above the bar. And it was a nice light fixture. Yeah. And he said, see that fixture? That fixture was $200. I could have put a $2,000 fixture up there. But if you think about it, in the bar, the lights go down, people are drinking, they're not going to look at the light fixture. Better that I should spend the $200 and take the $1,800 left and put it into more things in my kitchen for better equipment, better this, better that, because that's where my restaurant's going to come from, the quality of my food.
That's a very smart decision and really true.
And so I use that in book 2 as a reference when somebody said something about, well, maybe Emily spent such and such, and her mother goes to the fact, oh no, Emily's too practical, but I literally took his line and worked it into the book. Yeah. And I did that throughout the series whenever things, and so in this one Tastes Too Many, I worked in different things that people had shown me. Yeah. In the book 4 Cuts Too Many, if you look at it, you'll see knives on the cover, and it deals with knives. I knew how I wanted to kill my character, the character who was going to die right off the bat. If you've ever heard of an ice pick kill, it's a knife right into here. Oh, wow. And it's got to be sharp enough to get in and do the job. And it had to be somebody skilled enough to do it. Well, I didn't know enough about knives. So again, I called my friends.
That unto itself, I feel like, is a skill set. Having people be willing to chat with you, and then they're telling you things that are useful, and you can draw things from.
I think I was told, and it's true, if you tell people honestly what you're doing as an author, they are willing to talk. Yeah. And in this case, I said, should I use a lobster? And they go, no. And I said, well, should I use a bread knife? I mean, that's big and narrow. No. So I came down, and this person had a series of knives laid out, and I'm looking, and she goes, this is the one you want. It's a deboner. It's the smallest knife she had on the table, because she was explaining to me also how to cut, because one of the things in that book is, the different types of cuts, because, they're all different when you with cheese and such. But she says, this can go through sinew, it can go through bone, it'll do the job.
That sounds very, you're going, okay, I know exactly what's that sounds like belongs in a murder mystery. And you're like, I'm going to do this.
Well, I laughed so hard, but that book, that helps me get it right.
Again, you are so impressive. You are a judge. Originally, when I read that, I'm going, she's writing a cooking book. Why didn't she do a court stenographer or someone from the security or a bailiff? And I'm going, this is so different from what I would have thought with your background. But I like that you learned, you're learning on behalf of the reader.
Angela, the second book I ever wrote had a young lawyer, because I was no longer a young lawyer. I had been away from it for long enough that I felt I could write it. And I did short stories with some lawyers. Yeah. When I went to write this, I was on the bench still. And I felt too close to anything. I did not want anybody to mix the two together. And I went to a seminar a few years ago for a panel, and Elaine Viets, who I love her work. Yeah. Elaine couldn't write about her stroke. Oh wow. Her Richmond, that deals with what happened to her in real life with the stroke. Yeah. And she couldn't write about that for almost 10 years. Yeah. She was writing her other books, which were very coaxy. Alexis is a doctor by training, but she couldn't write medical until recently she hadn't written it at that point,
Yeah.
and she said, well, good, I only have about 3 or 4 more years till I can write about that. And that's how I felt about writing about law and judging.
Mm-hmm.
This was separate. I stayed on the bench when my first books came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've told you why I got off the bench.
No, you haven't. No.
If you don't, I'll tell you.
No, I was going to say I don't want to pry. Or...
Oh, no, it's a
Okay.
perfect story. I was very fortunate because of a case of first impression.
Mm-hmm.
The average age for my judgeship was 58.
Mm-hmm.
I was 30-something when I was appointed.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
And it was a lifetime appointment.
Yeah.
I was a federal administrative law judge. And I never had to run for election. We were the best kept secret. So I've been doing this for over 20 years at that point.
Yeah.
And I had the lawyers trained.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of every hearing, I would look at the lawyer and I would say, is there anything further? The lawyer would say, no, Your Honor, and I would do a standard closing.
Yeah.
On this particular day, I did my line, the lawyer did his,
Mm-hmm.
but his client went, yes, there's one more thing. I looked at the lawyer, and it's somebody I knew from my litigation days, one of the better lawyers that I know.
Uh-huh.
And he went, and he put his hands up in the air and looked to the sky, and I knew, oh gosh, he can't control this person. So I, keeping a straight face, I looked at the gentleman, the client, and I said, yes, sir, what is it? And he goes, Your Honor, I just want you to know, no matter how you rule, I'm gonna buy your book. Well, 2 things. I had to keep a straight face.
I wouldn't have been able to.
I had to. And yeah, you have to picture I'm in the black robe, I'm sitting above him on a bench. Thank you. And let's go down with the case. And I'm sure he didn't buy it because I ruled against him. But I went home that day and I said, we're getting our last kid out of school, to my husband. I said, I have 2 choices. I can stay on this bench until the day they carry me out.
Yeah.
Or I could, if the numbers work, I could walk out and follow my passion.
Oh.
And we decided the numbers worked. So I walked in the next morning and, it's all men. And I said, guys, I'm going to be leaving. I want no more cases assigned to me.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna give up my judgeship. I will stay here though and work out my docket. You're not gonna get stuck. So I figured 6 months, 7 months, 8 months,
Yeah.
More I'll be here. But I want you to know. And they were all sure I was ill or something was wrong because
Yeah.
I was so much younger than they were. I had
Yeah.
seniority, but these guys were all
Mm-hmm.
fewer 60s.
That's why you said you were appointed in your 30s. I'm going, wow.
So I was still much younger, and I said, you don't understand. If I can stay healthy for 20, 30 years, I can have a whole new career, and I can follow my passion to write. And that's why when you and I started talking, I said, I'm in my second childhood.
Yeah.
It's not a second act, it's following passion.
I love how positive the way you speak, and it's so kind and genuine, and it's almost encouraging, like, go live your passion. It's just, I just want to keep listening to you. That's amazing. I love the idea that you took that step and moved forward, and you're again, you exude this happy energy. Like,
People have been kind to me.
yeah.
As we were talking, the mystery world writers
Mm.
are some of the most generous, kind
Yeah.
writers. And people who were New York Times bestsellers have been kind to me.
Mm.
People have given me a legs up.
Yeah.
And it has made such a difference for where I am at this point in my writing career.
Yeah.
I'm not up there, but I,
Yeah.
moved up from the bottom rung. And if I can pay it, so I've been very active. I was told years ago I was told whatever you're involved in, get involved.
Oh.
So I have been president of the Guppies, which is the largest Sync chapter. I've been on the Sync National Board. I've been on the MWA National Board. I've
Yeah.
been the Southeast MWA president. You don't have to take all this down. But part of it was giving back for what I'm
Yeah.
getting. And because the more I do it, the more I learn. And the more I make, through the networks, you really find wonderful people.
But that's such a good perspective, and admitting you don't know certain things, people would probably assume she's a judge, she's so smart, she doesn't need us to tell her anything. You're like, okay, I'm a novice, I embrace that. When you did make it, you didn't do the cold shoulder of, oh, I'm writing now, I need to go write. But you actually took it and went back. That's great.
I took all the classes, read all the books,
Yeah.
asked the questions, and when people do that to me, I'm glad to help. There's some great models out there, Hank. There's one, there's so many different people that have done the same thing, and it's made a difference for a lot of us.
I love that. That's just so nice to hear. And I'm so happy that you've had such a positive experience and people have been so kind. And again, you're doing that pay it forward. I love that so much. I mean, you put the biggest smile on my face. This just made my whole day. I'm going, no matter what happens for the rest of the day, I'm like, it was a success. I'm so happy and so honored that I got to speak with you. Hopefully people will learn about this book series, and maybe you'll have another Cozy Mystery series down the road that we
I'm
can
sure we will.
also discuss. So it sounds like you have a lot of things happening, and I hope Cozy Mystery readers will look you up, follow you. Where can they follow you online?
www.deborahhgoldstein.com. DEBRA with an H in the middle initial, Goldstein.com.
So please go on her website, click on her social media profiles, because she is fabulous, she is talented. All the applause and shout outs to this wonderful woman. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to chat with me. And hopefully the Cozy Mystery readers will pick up your books.
And they can find me on Instagram, Facebook, any place they'd like to find me. Thank you.
She's worth the follow button.
I'm glad to be here with you all today.